The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Certified mail without official green card that always means trouble. I was still in my pajamas, coffee halfway to my lips, when I tore open the envelope. Dear Ms. Chun, it began in that cold, corporate font that screams lawyer. This correspondence serves as official notice that the property located at 4758 Blackwood Lane is in violation of the Meadowbrook Estates Homeowners Association covenants, codes, and restrictions. I had to read it 3 times before the words penetrated my disbelief. 30 days to comply. 30 days to tear down my grandfather's barn. 30 days to remove the unsightly agricultural structures and restore the property to residential standards or face daily fines of $500. My hands shook as I set down the letter. The barn wasn't just some random structure. It was where my grandfather had kept his workshop for 40 years, where he'd taught me to build birdhouses when I was 7, where he'd restored a 1967 Mustang by hand. It was the last piece of him I had left, and these people wanted it gone because it didn't match their beige aesthetic. I grabbed my phone and called my lawyer, Tom Bradford, the only attorney I trusted in this town. Tom, they're trying to make me demolish Grandpa's barn. Who is? His voice was cautious, already sensing the storm. The Meadowbrook Estates HOA. But Tom, that's impossible. Grandpa's property has been here since 1952. This HOA was only established 15 years ago, when they built the neighborhood. There's a long pause. Sarah, have you looked at your grandfather's property deed lately? The full survey? No, I just inherited it 6 months ago. Why? I think you'd better come to my office and bring any paperwork your grandfather left you about the land. All of it. 3 hours later, I sat in Tom's office surrounded by yellow documents, survey maps, and a stack of papers that smelled like my grandfather's attic. Dust and old paper and time. Tom spread out a large survey map across his desk, his finger tracing a thick red boundary line. Sarah, your grandfather owned 1,000 acres. 1,000. This survey is from 1950, 2 years before he built his house. Okay? I leaned forward, not understanding. Look at this. He pulled out a more recent map. This one showing the Meadowbrook Estates development, the neat rows of houses, the clubhouse, the community pool, the perfectly manicured parks. Now look at where they built. My eyes followed his finger, and suddenly, the air left my lungs. The entire Meadowbrook Estates HOA, all 247 homes, the clubhouse, the tennis courts, every perfectly edged lawn, and every beige-on-beige house sat squarely within my grandfather's original property lines. How is that possible? Tom pulled out another document, this one more recent. In 1998, your grandfather sold 200 acres to Pinnacle Development Corporation. But here's what they didn't count on. The deed specifically stated the sale was for the land only, with an easement allowing your grandfather and his heirs to maintain full access and use of any original structures. It also included a reversion clause. English, Tom. If the development company violated certain terms, the land would revert back to your family. They were supposed to maintain a 50-foot buffer around your grandfather's original 5-acre homestead. They didn't. Look. He pointed to the survey. They built right up to your property line. Houses 34, 35, and 36 are actually within the buffer zone. That violated the contract. My heart was pounding. What does that mean? It means legally, those 200 acres reverted back to your grandfather's estate in 2003. Nobody caught it because your grandfather never pursued it. He was getting older, probably didn't want the fight. But Sarah, you inherited all 1,000 acres. The HOA has no authority over you. Actually, he smiled slowly. You have authority over them. The emergency HOA meeting was called for Saturday morning. I received the email Thursday night. A curt message informing me that my continued violation required immediate board attention and that my presence was mandatory. I walked into that clubhouse at 10 a.m. sharp, Tom by my side, carrying a leather portfolio that held the future of 247 families. The board sat at a long table on a raised platform like some kind of suburban tribunal. Patricia Hendricks, the HOA president, sat in the middle, her blonde hair sprayed into submission, her smile sharp as a knife. "Ms. Chan, thank you for joining us." Her voice dripped with false courtesy. "We're here to discuss your flagrant disregard for community standards." "Actually," I said, setting my portfolio on the table in front of me, "we are here to discuss your illegal occupation of my land." The room went silent. Patricia's smile faltered. "Excuse me?" Tom stepped forward, pulling out the surveys and deeds. "Ms. Chan is a legal owner of all 1,000 acres of the original Blackwood property, including the 200 acres as development sits on. The reversion clause was triggered in 2003 when Pinnacle Development violated the buffer zone requirements. Your HOA is an operating on a property without legal authority for over 20 years. You could have heard a pin drop. Patricia's face went from tan to crimson. "That's ridiculous. We have deeds. Every homeowner here has a deed. You have deeds from a developer who didn't own the land anymore." Tom replied calmly, "Ms. Chan is willing to resolve this amicably, but let's be clear about the reality here. You're on her land. All of you." A man in the back stood up, his face purple. "You can't just come in here and threaten us. We'll sue." "You can try," I said, finding my voice, finding my strength. "But here's what I'm offering instead. You have 24 hours to rescind your violation notice against my property and issue a formal apology. You will also amend your HOA covenants to exclude my original 5-acre homestead from any and all restrictions in perpetuity." Patricia was on her feet now. "Or what?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Or I invoke my rights as a landowner. I can dissolve your HOA entirely. I can renegotiate every single property deed. Or," I paused, letting it sink in, "I can simply start charging ground rent for every square foot you're occupying." Tom's calculated it at fair market value. The community pool alone would be about $15,000 a month. The room erupted, people shouting, some cursing, others crying. Patricia's face had gone from red to white. "You can't do this," she shrieked. "I can," I said quietly. "And I will. You want to give me 30 days? I'm giving you 24 hours. The choice is yours." I didn't sleep that night. I kept expecting angry mobs, lawyers banging on my door, something. Instead, there was just silence and the sound of crickets from Grandpa's barn. At 9:47 a.m. the next morning, my email pinged. It was from Patricia Hendricks, sent on behalf of the Meadowbrook Estates HOA Board of Directors. "Dear Ms. Chun, after careful review and consultation with our legal counsel, the board has decided to rescind violation notice hashtag 2024-0847 in its entirety. Furthermore, we are pleased to amend our covenants to permanently exclude the original Blackwood homestead property from all HOA restrictions and oversight. We apologize for any distress this matter may have caused and look forward to maintaining a positive relationship with you as our neighbor. Sincerely, Patricia Hendricks, President Meadowbrook Estates HOA." I read it twice, then called Tom. "They caved," I said, my voice shaky with relief and something else triumph. "Of course they did. They had no choice." I could hear the smile in his voice. "So, what do you even do with your barn?" I looked out my kitchen window at the old wooden structure, weathered and beautiful, full of memories and history, and everything those people in their beige houses could never understand. "I'm going to restore that Mustang," I said. "Grandpa would have wanted that. And maybe I'll add a few more unsightly agricultural structures while I'm at it. I've got 1,000 acres. After all, might as well use them." Tom laughed. "You know they're going to hate you forever, right?" I thought about my grandfather, about how he'd stood his ground on this land for 60 years, about how he taught me that sometimes you have to fight for what matters. "Let them hate me for my property," I said. "They got 24 hours to get used to it." I hung up and walked outside, coffee in hand, and stood in front of that barn. Somewhere in the neighborhood behind me, I imagined Patricia Hendricks staring out her window, fuming, powerless. I raised my coffee cup in a silent toast to Grandpa. He'd left me more than land. He'd left me the power to stand my ground, the strength to fight back. and the satisfaction of watching bullies realize they'd picked the wrong person to mess with, the barn would stay. And so would I.
Marwadi actor subscribe more.